Hey, first hour, we're going to spend a little bit of time on the distance formula because in our next lesson, lesson 33, because we're going to skip 30, 31, and 32, you're going to need to know the distance formula to figure out some stuff. So just some quick stuff about the distance formula. The distance formula is really the Pythagorean theorem in disguise. So let's say you have 2 points. You have the point 1, 3, so over 1, up 3, and you also have the point 5, 7, so over 5, up 7. And you want to figure out how far is that, okay? So if you think of this as a right triangle, okay, this distance right here from 1 to 5, that's 4 units. And then this distance right here from 3 up to 7 is also 4 units. Okay. So remember our friend Pythagoras, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So a squared is 4 squared plus b squared is 4 squared equals c squared. Okay. And one way you could think about getting these numbers is like the way we figured out this distance is we did this x value. Those are our numbers again. We did this x value, 5 minus 1, okay, and that's 4 squared. And we did the y values, 7 minus 3, and also got 4. Equals c squared. That's where those 4's came from. So the x2 minus x1 and y2 minus y1. That'll make sense in a second when I show you the distance formula. So basically we just go, okay, so 4 squared, 16 plus 16 equals c squared, 32 equals c squared. I'm going to go down here because I wasn't thinking about how to set up my paper, and I get the square root of 32 equals c, okay, and it's always going to be positive simply because distance as a measure is always positive, okay. And then in the on the worksheet it just says to round your decimal, round your number to the nearest hundredth or 2 decimal places. So I'm going to go square root 32 like that, enter, and I get 5.66. That's what that's going to round up to. So c equals that. So that is my distance. So I told you, kind of showed you why the distance formula works, but I haven't actually shown you the distance formula yet. So the distance formula, let's say you have the points 5, -1, and 3, 7. So here's the distance formula. Distance equals the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So if we looked up here, that's x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared equals c squared, because we just substituted those in for a and b, just like Pythagoras. Okay, and then to figure out what c was, we took the square root of everything. So the distance formula is this. It's going to be at the top of your sheet, so it's a matter of just plugging things in. So this is x1, this is y1, x2, y2. All right, that's the distance formula. So distance equals square root 3 minus 5 squared x2 minus x1 plus y2 minus y1, 7 minus -1, boom, boom, squared. So distance, it's -2 squared plus 8 squared. So it's the square root of 4 plus 64 equals a square root of 68. So on my calculator, I'm just going to go second square root 68 equals, and I'm rounding to the nearest hundredth, so after the 4 is a 6, so that 4 bumps up to a 5. So it's about equal to 8.25 units, I guess is what you would call it. All right, so again, you just label your points, x1, y1, x2, y2. So on the worksheet, okay, I actually already did the first one for you in this example. So you just have x1, y1, x2, y2. I would go through and I would label all those. I do want you to show your thinking. I don't just want your decimal answers. Okay, I at least want to see it set up. Okay, and then you can have your decimals. So that is the distance formula. And on the back side of this are some grids where you can find the distance of some points along a grid. And again, you can either use the distance formula here, or you can think of it as Pythagoras. Mrs. O'Leary is going to help you out, and if you have any questions, make sure you ask her. All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow.